All right, so this is the last lecture in this Tiny Dog Now Is Mine realm of the course method. We're going to talk here about one doctrine. In the Wilson method, his assertion is that a sermon should only deal with one doctrine. I'll just tell you right off the bat that this is problematic for me. It's been the hardest part of the method to internalize and to use in my own practice because sermons are always touching on more than one doctrine. If you take a phrase like John 3:16, "For God so loved the world," you're talking there about the Trinity and about the first person of the Trinity and the second person of the Trinity, and you're talking about incarnation, and you're talking about faith, and you're talking about love, and you're talking about the world, and you're talking about salvation. Just that one simple God action phrase touches all kinds of doctrines, and every sermon will too. And add to that the fact that your sermon is in the context of a worship service, which is also, in the hymns are touching all kinds of doctrines, and if there's a baptism, that the baptism's in play. So every worship service, every Bible passage, and every sermon are necessarily touching many different doctrines. The reason that I think that the one doctrine call is useful is as a discipline tool for you, the preacher. So I would never expect you to say in the sermon, "Oh, by the way, this sermon is about Christology." You don't need to do that. But for you yourself to think, okay, I want to focus here on the person of Jesus, and and not slide down into the area of talking about the Spirit. Although, how can you talk about Jesus without talking about the Spirit? I don't want to talk about all aspects of Jesus' life. Maybe I want to focus on Jesus as the suffering servant, so that kind of narrows the doctrinal focus. That's all this is really about, is for you as the preacher in the course of your composition to help discipline you and help you with some of the choices that you're inevitably going to face when you're composing a sermon. Obviously, some liturgical dates and lectionary sets suggest doctrinal leanings, like the incarnation at Christmas, or resurrection at Easter, the work of the Spirit at Pentecost, stewardship in a lot of the October and November texts, the end times in other November texts, and so forth. And that'll naturally lead you toward some focus doctrinally. But again, Paul Wilson is suggesting that all sermons ought to be sort of dwelling in one sort of doctrinal place. We'll talk a little bit about this. I would say don't sweat it very much for the purpose of this course. If you find yourself really stymied by what doctrine your sermon is about, just leave it blank. Don't worry about it. Again, think of it more as a tool for you in the composition process. I will post on the website, and when I send the email with the URLs for this lecture set, I will also tell you where you can find the list of doctrines, at least in Lutheran systematic theology, the traditional list of doctrines, just to give you some sense of what we're talking about here. But I think that's all I'll say at this point about the one doctrine.